I have watched all Marvel films and TV shows and I've loved quite a few of them also because they're good pieces of entertainment. I've also watched the DCU films and I've shrugged my shoulders because what else can you do? And then this weekend I went and watched the Superman film and all I can say is Marvel can get fucked. After the Superman film, I realized I'm a DC fan. I haven't read too many Marvel comics, although it seems like I have a lot of Marvel comics just lying around, way more than DC. But I haven't read too many Marvel comics, mostly because DC characters are way more fun and more interesting. And Superman is right up there among the really, really interesting characters. I admit, I haven't always liked Superman. I liked him when I was a kid. In my teens, I decided he was too weird and too stupidly good. Now I'm back to liking him because stories aren't always what you see on the surface. I like James Gunn's Superman. I like this new Superman. I had my reservations about David Cornswet, especially after Henry Cavill portrayed him brilliantly. But really, David Cornswet is pretty damn good. I was talking to my wife and we were talking about how Henry Cavill's Superman was more Superman, in that he was more godlike, more self-assured, more somehow larger than man. He had a sort of charisma about him. If I had to imagine Superman, I'd imagine Henry Cavill. And for a while, I sort of agreed with this sentiment. But then I sat down and thought about it. And I don't think Superman is supposed to be any of that really. He's not dark and brooding. He's not suffering. His supporting characters aren't gritty. That's Batman. That's how you make a Batman film. There's so much color in Superman's world. It's astounding how I even liked Henry Cavill so much. It's astounding how this version of Superman that pops up in my mind every time I think about Superman, even now, is Henry Cavill. I love Henry Cavill. I really, really love him. But I think he was given the short end of the stick when he was playing Snyder's Superman. And as much as I like Cavill, at least in the first film, that isn't Superman. Pick up any Superman comic and look at any of the panels. They look nothing like what Snyder imagined. Superman in the comics is huge. He's powerful, sure. But his world is bright. It's colorful, unlike Snyder's version. Superman wears red underwear over his pants. That makes him look silly. If you don't already know this, in some comic continuity, he wears the red underwear because it makes him look goofy. He looks huge, he looks powerful, he looks like a god, but he undercuts that with his clownish red underpants. That's what kids like. That's what puts them at ease. Superman loves kids. I remember reading Superman as a kid myself back in the 80s. And while he was certainly powerful looking, like all superheroes really, I remember him smiling kindly. And I remember I liked Superman not because he could punch bad guys or because he could push the moon into a new orbit. I liked him because he was a nice guy through and through. He was a nice guy and he smiled at me. I don't know if I'm going to like the film when I watch it again. I don't know if I like it in a few days. I don't even know if I like it tomorrow. All I know is, in this moment, at this time, I absolutely adore this new Superman film. Somewhere at the beginning of the film, Clark has this conversation with Lois Lane. He tells her he's up for an interview and he sits down with her and starts to answer a question. And it's a long conversation. It's a 12-minute conversation. That's almost 10% of the film. 10% of a superhero film in which two people are just talking. It's a freaking long conversation. It's a heavy conversation. And it does not tire you out at all, this conversation. A lot of film's themes and its heart is buried in this conversation. Superman's willingness to step in and stop violence when it isn't necessary. He needs to stop evil whenever it happens. But he isn't able to articulate the sentiment well enough when Lois asks him questions. It frustrates him, and he eventually comes off as someone who can't even handle a conversation with his girlfriend. And I know Superman is in the right here, but you see him fail and you're left as frustrated as him. Lois is always cautious in this conversation. She's trying to show Clark he doesn't have to get defensive, but she's doing her job and doing a damn fine job of it. And this interaction between two people who are both right and yet on opposite sides of the argument, that's what I call good writing. Speaking of Lois Lane, I like Lois Lane. I can't remember the last time I liked a Lois Lane. Most of the other Lois Lanes, at least in the films I've watched, were sort of supporting characters. This one, though, she sort of stands on her own 2 feet. She sets out to save Superman. She does some journaling that actually sets Superman's image right. She talks to Superman, asks him questions that make him angry. And I liked all of this. I like all the stuff that she does. Rachel Brosnahan does a brilliant job of the material she's given. Surprisingly, Jimmy Olsen has a bigger role to play in the film than what I had imagined. Considering how much of Clark's world we actually see, he occupies a pretty big part of it. And it's great that they give Jimmy something substantial to do. Speaking of Clark Kent, Clark spends some time playing around with Jimmy, doing the most ridiculous things and being really goofy. And I loved every minute of David Gordon Sweat's Clark Kent. He's such a delight to watch. And then there's Lex Luthor. I don't know. When I look at Nicholas Hoult, he doesn't seem like a Lex Luthor to me. He plays evil well, I suppose, but he doesn't feel evil. He's been a reserve beast from the X-Men movies. He's been the subdued zombie in Warm Bodies. He's been Nux from Mad Max, slightly demented but ultimately good. Nicholas Hoult is a good guy. He doesn't feel like a bad guy. Seeing him play an evil supervillain like Lex Luthor, I just didn't buy it. That said, Luthor had some brilliant moments that Nicholas Hoult brought to life, and hats off to his acting really. One of the scenes that was especially disturbing in an otherwise optimistic film was when Nicholas Hoult, or Lex Luthor, brings the street vendor into his pocket dimension tied to a chair, and he points a gun at him, eventually shooting him. That was a terribly disturbing scene. For some reason, I thought Superman would break the glass and stop Lex Luthor. I thought no way they'd let a guy die in a Superman film. But then he went and died, and I was left uneasy. It didn't really fix things, it didn't really wash away my feelings at the end, but Clark writes a little article about the dead street vendor, and it appears on the front page of a newspaper, and that's a nice sentiment, sure. But I somehow felt hurt by the whole experience, which is ridiculous. You would assume a man who has 2 kids would get past people dying in film, but no, I'm still this way. I liked all the fights in the film. There were some wonderful fights, but one I liked particularly, one I really liked, was a short fight. Mr. Terrific, when he walks into Luthor's lair, covers Lois Lane in a shield power globe of some sort and starts trashing everyone at the base so casually. It's brilliant. It's such a brilliant fight scene. It's not even a fight scene really. Terrific freaking wipes Luthor's forces, and that is so satisfying to watch. It's, for lack of a better word, brilliant. Mr. Terrific was brilliant in the film, as was Metamorpho. And Nathan Fillion is always brilliant in anything he plays. I really wanted to see Guy Gardner brought to the silver screen, and Nathan Fillion is a delight. He's such an ass, not nearly as much as the Guy Gardner we know from the comics, but still such an ass. There's also Hawkgirl, and she's somewhat of an oddity in that she doesn't really do much just in terms of story, so I don't know what to make of her. The Engineer was yet another character I was slightly confused about. From what I remember, the Engineer was a hero in the Authority comics. I'm not entirely sure why they showed her as a bad guy here. Did she ever switch sides in the comics? Was she the bad guy all along? I don't know what's happening here. Let's circle back to Superman, because this is a Superman film and he's at the heart of the film. I really like David Gordon Sweat's Superman. I've already said this before. I don't know why I'm saying it again, but I am. Anyway, I didn't think I would like him much when they first announced the cast. But he's definitely a Superman I can get behind. He's a Superman who's trying to save a kaiju monster and put him in a museum or something, in spite of it causing so much damage. He rescues squirrels. He blows dogs away gently from trouble. He talks to people very earnestly after saving them. He goes through hell, gets locked up in a glass cube, and has kryptonite poisoning just so he can save his dog, who isn't really his dog, and a dog he has problems with. He's a Superman that probably needs some writers, because some of the stuff he said to Lex Luthor after having that scuffle towards the end, that felt a little corny. But otherwise, David Gordon Sweat is a great Superman. I'm glad we got this Superman. I'm glad we got this film. I like this film, and from what I've seen, Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, and now Superman, I have a good feeling about DC's films. I think there's good stuff lined up for us. And I'm going to start getting excited about the things that are coming our way. That's all I have for this video. What did you think about the film? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Because clearly you have bad taste. Let me know. I'd like to hear from you. And until next time, bye-bye.